I spent years trying to become a more confident rider. Looking back, I think I was actually solving the wrong problem. I know because I made every one of these mistakes with my own horse. Then I started coaching other riders around the entire world, and I kept seeing the same psychological patterns over and over again. Different riders, different horses, even different countries, but the same patterns. Eventually, I realized these weren't random mistakes, they were actually very predictable. So I started calling them my performance psychology framework because once I saw these patterns, I actually couldn't unsee them. If you're also an anxious rider, save this now because you're going to want to come back to these 5 patterns, because here's what I eventually realized. You're never just riding your horse, you're riding your interpretation of your horse. Let me show you what I mean. Early on, my horse spooked once at the end of the arena in this one corner, just one time. After that, it was like every single time I came down that long side, I always over-prepared for another spook. I remember my trainer in that moment finally saying to me, Pernilla, just ride your plan, stop anticipating the spook. I call this the anticipation loop. Your brain is a prediction machine. It doesn't wait for danger, it predicts danger. And your body starts writing the prediction instead of the horse that you have. Once I understood that, something totally changed. Then I started noticing something else. And honestly, I think this one changed everything. I call it the interpretation trap. My horse has always lowered his head a little before a jump, always, just to look at it. But as the jumps got bigger, my brain changed the meaning and I began convincing myself that he was about to stop. Then I started convincing myself he hated blue planks, except that wasn't actually true. The horse hadn't changed. My interpretation had. Hang on, because this is the part nobody ever explained to me. Anxiety doesn't just change how you feel, it changes what you think you're seeing. Your brain starts assigning meaning before it has enough information. So instead of writing what your horse is actually doing, you start writing the story your anxious brain has already started writing. But then I started noticing another pattern. I call it the reassurance loop. One good jump and suddenly you trust yourself again. One calm warm up and now you think you're ready. One perfect distance, you finally exhale. Your confidence comes back dependent on your horse proving everything is okay. And honestly, underneath all of that, there's something even deeper. I wasn't actually regulating my own nervous system. I was borrowing my regulation from my horse, from the warm up, from the perfect distance, from everything outside of me, which I call the borrowed regulation. Then one trainer completely changed everything for me. Instead of telling me the course beforehand, he called out every jump while I was riding. So he would say, go jump the vertical, go jump the coxer, go do the 5 stride. I didn't have time to build a story. I only had time to actually stay present and in the ride. That's when I understood performance presence. The ability to bring your attention back to the present task even while anxiety is still talking. And that's when the sentence finally made sense to me. You're never just riding your horse, you're riding your interpretation of your horse. Because confidence isn't what you feel before you ride, it's what you do while anxiety is still talking. Once you know these patterns, you can't unsee them. And that's where your riding starts to change. I'm really curious, which one of these patterns do you catch yourself doing the most of? Let me know in the comments.